Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Counselor's Couch 101. Yes, it's still Jim Stump, and it's still the same pronoun. Haven't changed that. With all the disturbing things going on in the world today, I hope you're all coping well. Put your faith in something and move forward, whatever your faith is in. Maybe you think the people who are in Washington, D.C. will figure out these troubles and settle the whole thing down. But have faith in something, move forward and move forward in a positive direction. Make use of the time, if you have it, and plan for times when things get better. That's what I mean to say. Anyway, the other day in one of the comments, someone mentioned the idea of shame, right? Someone once said that guilt is feeling badly about something we've done. Shame is feeling badly about who we are. Who we are. What is this whole idea of who we are? Well, who we are is just a mental construct. It's how we think of ourselves. That's all that is, who we are. We don't have to be whatever that is. If we don't like it, we can change it, right? You can turn it into a more positive who we are or who you are if you want to do that. But the first thing we got to do is recognize what we're saying to ourselves, right? All this stuff is connected when I talk to you guys. A lot of it has to do with the noise in our head, right? The things we think. As we think, so we are, right? That's the whole idea. And if we're thinking negative thoughts about ourselves, then we're going to have negative consequences because of our behavior is affected by our negative thoughts about ourselves. Other people call it low self-esteem. Where does all that stuff come from, right? Well, we already know that, and many people have said it, and it's all true. Oftentimes, not always, not 100%, but oftentimes, who we are, the idea of self-esteem, is downloaded into us when we're very young. Now, it can happen that people can download negative images of yourself into you when you're a child. And it's not to say that people are trying to be vindictive or bad to you or to hurt you in any way. It's just sort of how the human condition works. I mean, consider for a second. Let's say you're a child and you're the youngest one in the family. Just for example, you could be the middle child, Marsha. You could be someone in the family who's not the chosen one, right? What does that do to your self-esteem? And by the way, the chosen children also have their own problems. Excuse me. They also have their own problems. A lot is expected of them. Sometimes they feel the pressure to exceed and to excel and to be good at everything, and that's the pressure in and of itself, right? But let's say you're down in the pecking order, and when we're little, it's like everybody in the house is a dinosaur, right? By that I mean they're all bigger than we are. They're all smarter than we are. They are all older. They've had more experience. They've had more education. They've had more life to work from. And so as we look up at that and we don't have those things, it's easy to inject into ourselves, well, I'm not as big as my brother. I'm not as smart as my sister, right? That's the kind of thing that goes on. Excuse me one second. Excuse me for that. There was a call coming through. It was disrupting the screen there. I couldn't see what we were doing. Anyway, we can download these feelings, right? Also, kids can be kind of outspoken. They say kids can be cruel, but what it is, they don't have any barriers. Maybe they're not trying to be hurtful or anything, but they just say what they think. So, they might look at a younger sibling and say something like, you dweeb, like that. It gets downloaded, right? No one means to be cruel, but we take it into ourselves and we start getting an idea of ourselves based on the reflection that we're getting back from the universe, right? So it can come from families, sure. There are toxic parents and toxic people that can really mess up a child as far as disregarding self-esteem, right? But that's not the only place it can come. Let's say you have a decent family upbringing. Nothing's perfect, but yours is pretty good. And then you go off to school and you start playing baseball in the field, and the other kids are bigger than you and they make fun of you because you can't swing the bat as well as somebody else. You can't hit the ball. You start downloading those kinds of thoughts in yourself. I'm not as good as somebody else. And that gets translated down into the psyche as I'm not good, right? That's what the brain does with that stuff. It breaks it down to the lowest sort of common denominator and then sticks it in there firmly, and we start working on that premise, I'm not good. I'm not smart, or I'm not athletic, I'm not something, right? It's a negative introject. Let's say we're trying to socialize with people and we get rejected by our peers. That also gets affected, gets downloaded into our self esteem. And all this negative stuff is just noise in our heads. That's what it comes from. Now, some people, they just get lucky. They get to a point in their life, they say, you know something, I just don't care. I don't care what all these people think of me and like that. It's too much weight carrying around all this negative thought about myself. Forget it. Just heck with it. I'm going to go and live my life. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to pursue the things I want to pursue. And I'm going to let all the rest of this stuff go hang, right? If people can do that, as long as they don't turn into raging narcissists, that's not a bad way to go. Just offload it. It's negative. It's not helping you in any way. It's not going to do anything positive for you. So why carry it around? Why believe it, right? Now, there are ways to get rid of this stuff. I may have mentioned this before, but one of the things I ask people to do when I talk with them and they're going through these kinds of things, I say, by the way, let me back up one step. If we're going to deal with these things, I tell folks it's not a spectator sport. You have to do something. I talk to people all the time. They figure they can come in and talk one time a week, and that's supposed to cure them and make them better and all this, that, and the other thing. Well, oftentimes, depending on the circumstances and the issue at play, yes, that can help you improve your life. But it's oftentimes the things that we have to get done, we have to do away from the counseling conversation, right? So oftentimes counselors will give a client a homework, right? This week, I want you to do X and so. I want you to walk around the block 5 times or whatever it is. I want you to go out in the sunshine, smile at somebody and say hello, just like that. Just, it's a chore, it's a homework. And they check with them later and say, did you do these things? I want you to get up every day and exercise for 20 minutes before you take your shower and go off to work and like that. Give them homework. Sometimes we say, I want you to sit down and talk with your spouse, right? Um, Set a date to sit down and talk about the issues that you're telling me about. Talk it over with them, him or her, depending on pronouns, right? And work it out. So that's a homework. One of the things I often ask people to do who come in worried about issues of self-esteem and so forth, I say, I want you to keep a log. And everybody groans. They don't want to. I say, look, I don't want you to write a biography of your life, right? I don't want you to write a novel. I just want you to make quick little notes about the stuff you're thinking. So if you're thinking poorly of yourself and you're aware of it, if you have a little notebook that you can stick in your pocket, put it in your pocket, put a pen in there, take it out, just jot it down. Put the day, like the 23rd, 9 a.m., whatever, and write down real quickly, bad thought about the boss doesn't like me, something like that. A short little note, right? And put a date on it so that we can, the only purpose of the note is to help you remember what you're thinking and feeling at that time. Because these thoughts, they flit by, they go by really quickly and we forget about them. But they are still controlling our lives. So we have to slow the thing down, catch that thought and see what it is, right? So we write it down in a log, just sort of take notes. And you might get to the end of the week and you might have a lot of notes. You might not have any at all. You might have a few. That's what I might have done previously. These days, a lot of people take their notes on their cell phones, right? They bring up a little writing sort of an application and they just make their note in their cell phone. I say whatever works for you, right? But the idea is we want you to keep a log of these negative thoughts because we want that little note to help you remember what you're thinking and feeling at that time, right? Then, when we talk on the phone, I say, okay, did you have anything in your log? And people say yes. And some people say, I have 20 entries. And other people say, I have 4. I say, okay, fine. Why don't you read them to me? And they'll read their list, how many ever they have. And I try to pick out the theme in it. What's going on? One guy I talked to, he did it. He kept a log for 1 week. And he said, I have 20 entries. And I said, okay, fine, we'll read them. So he read through his 20 entries, and I stopped and I thought about all the stuff he had read. And I said to him, it sounds like you don't trust your girlfriend and you're mad at her, right? And he got really, really quiet and he said, yeah, that's it. He wasn't able to see it because he's caught up in the maelstrom of it. All this stuff going on in our head, we think that's life. We think it's reality. And we don't stop to question it, right? Once he identified that, he could turn around and deal with that issue, talk to the girlfriend, work out the difficulties they're having, and those problems disappear and those thoughts go away. It's like that. When it comes to self-esteem, people usually say, I was afraid of my boss. My partner is overbearing and makes me feel bad about myself, like I don't have any power, or whatever it is. When we start going through that, we start to pick out what is the underlying theme in all this negative self-talk that you're telling yourself, or something that causes you fear or anxiety, whatever it is. What is the theme of it? We try to identify that. And we say, oftentimes it's going to come down to something simple like, I'm not good enough. Usually these things are really simple and short. These little things we keep in our brain and we operate our lives from. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not good looking enough, right? I can't play sports, whatever it is. Usually it's a negative thought. And then we look at that, we examine it, and we say, okay, are these things true? And if they're true, then we do things to ameliorate the effect of them on our lives. If they're not true, we dispel them from our brains because they're hindering us, right? That's the whole thing there, is what you're telling yourself is affecting your life, right? So when we go back to shame, that's all it is. It's a bunch of noise in your head. We got to identify it, and we have to deal with it with whatever is the right sort of procedure to use for that type of thought that you have, because there are different basic themes that people carrying around their head. Then oftentimes I say, okay, look, if we find the theme and we analyze it and we figure out that it's not true, then we're going to offset it with something that is true. And I'll have to save that for another post because it's too long to get into. You can ask about that if you like, how to offset negative thinking. If you want to hear about that, send me a note or an email. By the way, as you probably know, the email address is counselorscouch101@mail.com. Just mail.com, right? In case you want to send a suggestion or a question or something we can talk about here. So we try to attack that negative thinking and do something about it. Either we eliminate it, or we offset it, or we oppose it. We do something, we get rid of it. Then I tell folks, what regarding the stuff that you think you can't do in life, why don't you pick a goal and go after it? Something that you know you can accomplish or believe you can accomplish, or even something that you want to accomplish, which might be a little bit further out of your safe zone, where you feel good about doing things in life. Maybe a little bit out of that zone, but still you go out there and you're going to try and you're going to get it to happen. Accomplishing goals in life like that can often offset a lot of negative thinking. That's just one way to go at it. Just a side thought. Focus on something positive, or focus on something that's good in your life. Focus on a good relationship you have. Focus on gratitude for having a building and a roof if the weather's bad. Focus on the fact that you have a good job if you have it. Focus on the fact that you live in the place you want to live. Whatever you can find, they used to call it a gratitude list. Whatever you can find in your life right now at this moment that you can be grateful for, focus on that, and we're offsetting the negativity, right? But if the negativity is overwhelming, then I want you to take a log of it. We're going to examine it, find out what the themes are, and go at getting rid of them. Another thing, I mentioned this the other day, and I mentioned it again, avoid negative people. See, the whole sort of a process is we carry around these negative thoughts of ourselves. I don't think we can ever be completely rid of them. We can try. I mean, there's some people out there who have claimed to have done it. They've cleared out their minds, and all they do is think of nirvana, and they don't let the world bother them. That's great if they can do that. And basically, when we practice mindfulness and meditation and so forth, that's what we are trying to do, is to clear out our minds and get rid of the noise, especially the negativity, right? So let's say that we do that, and we're having pretty much good success with it, but there's still something in us that is a negative thought lying way deep down. We haven't gotten completely eradicated. And then some negative person comes along and they say something to you, they needle you, right? And they do it on purpose, because some people just love to make other people feel badly, right? That's why I say don't waste your time with them. Don't be in their vicinity. All they can do is hurt you. They can't help you, right? So avoid those negative people. We walk in, we've got this little germ of negative self-esteem in us. They pick at it. And what they do is they trigger that negative self-esteem, becomes bubbling up. All of a sudden, we don't feel good about ourselves again, right? We're feeling really badly, and maybe we have some sort of a negative reaction. Most people tell me they get angry. Um, Ask me about that too. Anger is an extremely big issue. A lot of things that people call anger is really something else. If you want to hear about that, let me know. There's a lot of subcategories that people call anger. Um, so the negative person triggers that, and then all of a sudden we're feeling badly, right? So that has no good consequence, no good goal or anything that come from it. So avoid it. You don't need to subject yourself to that kind of negativity. It just hurts you. There's no advantage to it. We don't need to be rude. Just leave the people alone. Say, hey, God bless you, or whatever you say. Have a wonderful day. That kind of thing. Go on your way. Just stay away from them, right? Um, that's kind of the basic of the thing is we're trying to clear out the negative people in our lives. We're trying to clear out the negative noise in our heads, right? And there are various ways to go about it. Shame is just what we're thinking. It doesn't really exist, right? Some physical things do exist, but that doesn't mean they have to cause us shame. That's a whole different ballgame, that negative stuff in our head. We're trying to get rid of it. Um, so we want to stay away from negative people. We want to stay away from negative thinking. And if we can, if it's overwhelming us, take a log of it and, send me an email. Let me know what goes on in your log. Let's analyze this stuff, and I'll try to give you a pointer or two to help you get rid of that negative thinking. And I'll leave you with one last thought here. Sometimes one of the techniques that was mentioned way back when was that people would say, make a cartoon out of the thing that's bothering you. If it's shame or negative thinking or something of that sort, make a cartoon out of it. I don't know what cartoons the folks are watching these days or if they watch any at all, but turn it into a cartoon so that you can diminish its power over you, right? If you can see it in a funny light and laugh at it, we can sort of get rid of it, or at least we can get rid of all the negative impact, the power of the negative impact it's having on you. See it as a cartoon. I keep thinking of the words of Gomer Pyle. Remember that? Well, maybe you don't. But some of you, and it's in syndication, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go online and type in Gomer Pyle. But I remember he always used to say, shame, shame, shame. And I think of that. When I start thinking badly of myself, I think of Gomer Pyle saying, shame, shame, shame. And it brings a smile to my mind, and it allows me to let go of that thought. It reminds me to let go of it. It's not real. It's a cartoon. It's a negative cartoon playing in my head. I don't need to give it power by giving it energy and thought and time. I can let go of it. Shine, shine, shine. Anyway, I hope that helps some of you. Thank you for stopping by. I look forward to talking with you next time. God bless.